The notification arrived at 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday morning in April, piercing through the pre-dawn quiet of our kitchen. I was standing at the counter, watching the coffee maker gurgle and hiss, thinking about nothing more complicated than the Henderson Industries presentation I had to deliver that afternoon. 23 slides on portfolio optimization strategies. I'd been preparing for 3 weeks. Parkmobile. Your monthly statement is ready for review. I almost swiped it away. Almost. But something made me tap it instead. Maybe the fact that our Visa bill last month had been $800 higher than usual, or maybe just the instinct that comes from 15 years as a senior financial analyst at Preston and Associates. You learn to pay attention to the details that others miss, the patterns that don't quite align, the numbers that whisper something's wrong before they scream it. Kelly was still upstairs in our master bathroom, deep in her morning ritual. I could hear the hairdryer humming through the ceiling, could picture her standing at the double vanity in her cream silk robe, the one I'd bought her for our 10th anniversary. She'd be sectioning her honey blonde hair with those clips she kept in a crystal dish, working through each piece with the round brush she swore by. Presentation is everything in real estate, she'd told me 1,000 times. Clients buy from people they trust, and they trust people who look successful. She'd spend exactly 12 minutes on her makeup. I knew because I'd timed it once during a lazy Sunday, teasing her about her precision. She'd laughed, that bright musical laugh that had first caught my attention at a mutual friend's barbecue 13 years ago, and kissed me, leaving a perfect coral lipstick mark on my cheek. "You know me, John," she'd said, wiping the mark away with her thumb. "Everything has to be perfect. It's how I was raised." That was true. Kelly's mother, Patricia, had been a senator's wife, raised in the kind of old money Southern family where appearance wasn't just important, it was everything. Kelly had inherited that bone-deep need for perfection, that ability to present a flawless facade, no matter what chaos might be swirling beneath. I smiled at the memory as I opened the parking app, scrolling through the monthly charges. Kelly's real estate career had finally taken off after 3 years of struggle. She'd started at a small boutique agency, barely making ends meet, calling expired listings and hosting empty open houses. But she'd persevered, studying market trends at night, building relationships, learning the intricate dance of high-end real estate. 6 months ago, she'd been recruited by Hartley Realty, one of the city's premier agencies. The kind of place with marble floors and fresh orchids in the lobby, where agents drove European cars and sold million-dollar properties. Her commissions had tripled almost overnight. "We're finally building the life we always talked about," she'd said the night she got the job offer, crying happy tears over champagne. "That house in Westfield, the European vacations, maybe even that boat you've always wanted." The parking charges seemed normal at first glance. Downtown zones where she showed luxury condos, the medical district where she'd been working with a surgeon couple relocating from Boston. The financial district for what she called her high-net-worth clients, tech entrepreneurs and hedge fund managers looking for the perfect penthouse. Then I saw it. Zone 47, Tuesday, March 15th, 4 hours, $24. I knew every parking zone in the city occupational hazard of being married to a real estate agent who was always rattling off locations and neighborhoods. Zone 47 was the industrial district. Abandoned warehouses and failed manufacturing plants. Broken windows and graffiti-covered walls. Not exactly prime real estate territory. "Must be those conversion properties she mentioned," I muttered to myself, taking another sip of coffee. Kelly had been talking about the trend of converting old industrial spaces into trendy lofts. "Artists are the canaries in the coal mine of gentrification," she'd explained. "Where they go, development follows." But then I saw it again. March 22nd, March 29th, April 5th, every Tuesday like clockwork. Sometimes 4 hours, sometimes 6. Always Zone 47. The coffee maker beeped, signaling the end of its cycle. I poured a fresh cup, adding the single sugar and splash of cream that I'd been using for 20 years, and kept scrolling. A pattern emerged like a photograph developing in slow motion. Every Tuesday, Zone 47. Every Thursday, Zone 15. Every Saturday, Zone 31. For 6 months. Morning, honey! Kelly's voice made me jump, coffee sloshing dangerously close to the rim of my mug. She stood in the kitchen doorway like she'd stepped out of a magazine spread. Navy Armani blazer that we'd bought to celebrate her first big commission. Cream silk blouse that brought out the green flecks in her hazel eyes. Her grandmother's pearl necklace, the one she wore for luck on important showing days. "You're up early," she said, moving past me to the coffee maker. She moved with the practiced grace of a woman who'd taken dance lessons from age 4 through college. Even pouring coffee looked choreographed. "Couldn't sleep," I said, setting my phone face down on the counter. "Big presentation today. The Henderson account." "Oh, that's right." She turned, her face lighting up with what looked like genuine interest. After 12 years of marriage, I thought I knew all her expressions. "The portfolio optimization project. You've been working so hard on that." "Yeah, well, 30 million in assets. They deserve our best effort." She moved behind me, wrapping her arms around my shoulders. The familiar scent of her perfume, Chanel No. 5, which she'd worn since college, mixed with the vanilla notes from her shampoo. "My brilliant husband. You're going to knock them dead. I have complete faith in you." "What about you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. "Big day in real estate?" "Oh, the usual Tuesday madness." She moved to fix her coffee, 2 sugars, no cream, always in her favorite mug with "World's Best Wife" printed on it. I'd bought it for her as a joke years ago, but she used it every morning. Morning showing downtown at the Meridian, lunch with a client. Then I have to check on some potential listings in the afternoon. "Downtown?" I turned to face her. "Which unit?" "Penthouse B, the one with the private elevator? Asking price is 2.3 million." She glanced at her phone. "Actually, I should get going. Traffic's been horrible lately with all the construction on 5th. "Hey," I said, as she gathered her Louis Vuitton purse and keys. "What's in Zone 47? The industrial district?" Her hand stilled for just a moment on her keyring. It was subtle, the kind of tiny hesitation you'd only notice if you'd been watching for it. But after 12 years of marriage, I knew Kelly's tells. The way she bit her lower lip when she was nervous. The way she played with her wedding ring when she was thinking. The way she paused, just for a heartbeat, when she was about to lie. "Zone 47? She turned, her smile perfectly in place. The real estate agent's smile, warm but professional, engaging but not quite reaching her eyes. "Oh, there's some amazing conversion opportunities out there. Old factories being turned into loft spaces. Very Brooklyn circa 2005. Why do you ask?" "Just saw some parking charges there. Seemed like an odd place for real estate showings." "John." Her voice took on that gently exasperated tone she used when I questioned her business decisions. The same tone she'd used when I'd worried about her leaving her stable marketing job to pursue real estate. "You know development follows artists, and artists love cheap industrial spaces. I have to be ahead of the trend, not behind it. That's how you make real money in this business." It made perfect sense. Kelly had always been strategic, always thinking 3 moves ahead like a chess player. It's what would make her successful in real estate, she'd told me when she'd first gotten her license. "You don't sell what's hot now," she'd explained. "You sell what's going to be hot in 18 months. "Of course," I said, feeling foolish. "Sorry. I know you know what you're doing." She crossed back to me, cupping my face in her manicured hands. Her engagement ring, 2 carats, emerald cut, that had cost me 3 months' salary 13 years ago, caught the morning light. "I love that you worry about me, but I'm fine. Better than fine. We're building something amazing here, you and me. Trust me." Her kiss tasted like coffee and mint and promises. Then she was gone, the click of her Louboutin heels fading down the garage stairs, the purr of her Acura starting up. I heard the garage door rumble open, then closed, and then silence. I sat at our kitchen table, the farmhouse style one Kelly had found at an estate sale and spent weeks refinishing, and stared at my phone. The parking app was still open, Zone 47 staring back at me like an accusation. Something felt wrong. Not catastrophically wrong, just off. Like when a picture frame is tilted just slightly, and your eye keeps getting drawn to it. Like when someone's story makes sense, but their eyes are saying something different. I glanced at the clock. 7:38 a.m. I had 22 minutes before I needed to leave for work. The Henderson presentation was at 2 p.m., and I had a partners meeting at 10. Instead of reviewing my slides one more time, I opened my laptop and started exporting parking data to Excel. 3 months of charges laid out in neat columns: date, time, zone, duration, cost. The kind of data analysis I did every day for clients, except this time the client was my marriage. The patterns jumped out immediately, as clear as insider trading flags on a suspicious account. Every Tuesday, Zone 47, 2 6-hour sessions, always starting between 10 and 11 a.m. every Thursday. Zone 15, 3 4-hour sessions, always starting after 2 p.m. every Saturday. Zone 31, 30 45-minute sessions, always around 10 a.m. Kelly had said Zone 47 was industrial conversions. But what was Zone 15? And Zone 31? I pulled up the city's parking zone map on my laptop, zooming in on each area. Zone 15 was the entertainment district: bars, clubs, theaters, the kind of place young professionals went for happy hour and weekend nights. Maybe she was meeting clients there? The real estate business was all about relationships, and sometimes that meant meeting people where they were comfortable. Zone 31 puzzled me more. It was out by the old Riverside Psychiatric Hospital, abandoned since the state shut it down in the 90s. Nothing there but empty buildings and urban decay. The local news occasionally ran stories about vandalism and vagrancy in the area. I went back to Zone 47, zooming in further on the satellite view. My coffee mug froze halfway to my lips. The only operational business in Zone 47 wasn't an art gallery or a conversion project or anything remotely related to real estate. It was the Gold Rush Casino. No, I said out loud to the empty kitchen. There's got to be a mistake. I refreshed the map, checked the zone boundaries again. But there it was, a squat, windowless building with a parking lot that, according to Google Street View, was always full. The photos were dated just 3 months ago, recent enough to be accurate. I knew the Gold Rush by reputation. It wasn't one of the glitzy riverboat casinos that advertised on billboards. It was the kind of place that operated just inside the law, catering to serious gamblers who didn't care about shows or buffets or amenities. Just action. My hands were shaking as I went back through the data. 6 months of Tuesday visits to a casino. While I thought Kelly was showing condos and meeting clients, she was... There's an explanation, I told myself. There has to be. I called my assistant, trying to keep my voice steady. Marie, it's John. I need you to push the Henderson presentation to 4 p.m. Something came up. Is everything okay, Mr. Williams? You sound... Family emergency. I'll be in by noon. Can you reschedule the partners meeting too? Of course. Should I be worried? No, I lied. Everything's fine. Just need to handle something this morning. I showered and dressed on autopilot, my mind racing through possibilities. Maybe there was a client who liked to meet at the casino. Maybe there was a property nearby I didn't know about. Maybe the parking app was wrong, the zone boundaries outdated. Maybe I was being paranoid. But I'd built my career on trusting data over emotion, patterns over explanations. And the pattern here was clear, even if I didn't want to see it. I drove to Zone 47 slowly, taking surface streets instead of the highway. Part of me hoped I'd get lost, that I'd never find the casino, that this would all turn out to be a misunderstanding we'd laugh about later. The industrial district was worse in person than on satellite view. Empty lots strewn with garbage, buildings with boards over the windows, weeds growing through cracks in the sidewalk. And there, incongruous among the decay, sat the Gold Rush Casino. It looked like what it was, a former warehouse converted into a gambling den. No windows, just beige stucco walls, and a neon sign that probably lit up at night. The parking lot was already half full at 9:30 a.m. I recognized the demographics immediately. Retirees clutching coffee cups, young men in yesterday's clothes, middle-aged women who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else but couldn't stop coming back. I found a parking spot across the street with a clear view of the entrance and settled in to wait. At 10:47, Kelly's silver Acura pulled into the lot. I watched my wife of 12 years check her makeup in the mirror, reapply lipstick, and smooth her hair. She gathered her purse, not the Louis Vuitton, but a smaller Coach bag I hadn't seen her use in years, and walked into the casino with the confidence of someone who belonged there. Because she did. Every Tuesday for 6 months. My phone rang. Marie. I declined the call. For 3 hours I sat in my car, watching people come and go. Some strutted out like winners. Most shuffled out like the defeated. None of them was Kelly. At 1:52 p.m. she emerged. Even from across the street I could see the signs. The slightly mussed hair. The way she clutched her purse. The quick, furtive glance around the parking lot before getting in her car. She looked like a gambler. My wife, the polished real estate agent, looked like every other gambling addict I'd just watched leave that building. I followed her at a distance as she drove to a nearby gas station. She parked by the air pump and spent 5 minutes in her car. Fixing her makeup, I realized. Rebuilding the facade. Transforming back into the successful real estate agent with the perfect life. When she finally emerged to pump gas, she looked exactly like she had that morning. Polished. Professional. Perfect. The mask was back in place. I drove to work in a daze, somehow made it through the Henderson presentation, smiled and shook hands, and promised to send follow-up materials. But my mind was across town in Zone 47, watching my wife walk into a casino like she owned the place. That night, Kelly came home at her usual time, chattering brightly about her day. The Meridian showing had gone wonderfully. The penthouse buyers were very motivated. She might have a sale by the end of the week. "That's a $69,000 commission," she said over dinner salmon with asparagus, her specialty when she was in a good mood. "We could finally take that trip to Italy you've been talking about." I watched her lie with the fascination of someone observing a master at work. No tells, no hesitation. She created an entire alternate reality and inhabited it so completely that if I hadn't seen her at the casino myself, I would have believed every word. "How was your presentation?" she asked, refilling our wine glasses with the Pinot Noir we'd been saving for a special occasion. Apparently, her fictional commission qualified. "It went well," I said. "Postponed it until 4, but I think we'll get the account." "Postponed? Why?" A flicker of concern crossed her face. "You've been preparing for weeks. Wanted to make sure the numbers were perfect. You know me." My perfectionist. She smiled, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. Her wedding ring, a simple platinum band that matched mine, gleamed in the candlelight. "It's one of the things I love most about you. Your integrity, your honesty, the way you always do the right thing, even when it's hard." Each word was a knife sliding between my ribs, but I smiled and squeezed back. "What else do you love about me?" The question came out before I could stop it. She tilted her head, studying me. "Where's this coming from?" "We've been married 12 years. Sometimes I wonder if you still see me the same way you did at Dave's barbecue." "Oh, honey." She came around the table, settling into my lap like she used to when we were dating, back when we couldn't keep our hands off each other. "I love your stability, The way you make me feel safe. I love that you trust me to build my career, that you support my dreams even when they seem crazy. I love that you've never once doubted me. The irony was suffocating. I love you too, I said. And despite everything, I meant it. That was the worst part. I still loved the woman I'd married. I just wasn't sure she existed anymore. Wednesday, I called in sick again and spent the morning researching. Zone 15 was exactly what I'd feared. The entertainment district was home to upscale bars, a comedy club, a jazz venue, and one establishment that stood out like a neon sore thumb: the Velvet Room. Their website was all purple velvet and promises, where class meets beauty. Upscale gentlemen's entertainment. VIP experiences available. A strip club. Zone 15 was a strip club. I sat at my home desk, the antique oak one Kelly had surprised me with for my 40th birthday, and tried to process this information. My wife, the gambler, was also my wife, the... What? Strip club enthusiast? That made no sense. Kelly had always been conservative about that sort of thing. She'd made disapproving comments when a colleague had his bachelor party at a similar establishment. Unless she wasn't a customer. The thought hit me like a physical blow. No, that was impossible. Kelly would never. But then again, I'd thought she'd never gamble away our Tuesday mornings at a seedy casino. Thursday morning arrived with a sense of inevitability. Kelly breezed through breakfast, talking about quarterly reports and filing systems. Office day today, she said, gathering her things. Mountains of paperwork. New compliance requirements from the State Real Estate Board. Thrilling stuff. Sounds tedious. The glamorous life of a real estate agent. She kissed me goodbye. Might be late, month-end reports are due tomorrow. Good luck with it. Thanks, honey. Oh, and don't wait up. Jen wants to grab drinks after work. Girl talk, you know. Jen was her best friend from college, a pharmaceutical sales rep who traveled 3 weeks out of 4. I made a mental note to check if she was even in town. At noon, I drove to Hartley Realty. The office was exactly what you'd expect from a high-end agency. Marble and glass and fresh flowers and attractive people in expensive suits. The receptionist, Madison, recognized me from the company Christmas party. Mr. Williams, what a nice surprise. Here to take Kelly to lunch. Actually, I was hoping to catch her between appointments. Is she in? Madison's perfectly shaped eyebrows furrowed. Kelly? Oh no, she hasn't been in on Thursdays for months. Didn't she tell you? She rearranged her schedule back in, let me check, January. Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday in the office now. Right, of course. My voice sounded hollow even to my own ears. I must have mixed up the days. Happens when you get old. Oh, please, you're not old. Kelly's so lucky to have a husband who wants to surprise her with lunch. Madison's smile was genuine, which somehow made it worse. Should I tell her you stopped by when I see her tomorrow? No, that's okay. I'll surprise her another day. I sat in the parking lot of the Velvet Room for 20 minutes before working up the courage to go inside. The bouncer was exactly what Central Casting would send if you ordered strip club security. Massive, bald, with arms like ham hocks. $20 cover, 2-drink minimum, he said, without looking up from his phone. I paid and entered a world of manufactured fantasy. Purple velvet everywhere, just like the website promised. Stages with poles at various heights. Private booth areas shrouded in shadow. The smell of perfume and desperation and broken dreams. Music pounded from hidden speakers, the bass line vibrating through my chest. It was early afternoon, so the crowd was sparse. A few businessmen who'd started their weekend early, a bachelor party that looked like they'd been there since the night before, and lone men nursing drinks in dark corners. And there, carrying a tray of drinks between tables, was my wife. She wore a black cocktail dress that was probably appropriate for actual cocktail parties, but here looked almost conservative compared to what the dancers wore. She moved with practiced efficiency, smiling at customers, dodging grabbing hands with subtle grace, collecting tips with the speed of someone who'd been doing this for months. Because she had been. Every Thursday for God knows how long. I slipped into a corner booth, angling myself so she wouldn't see me. For 2 hours, I watched Kelly work. Watched her laugh at jokes that couldn't possibly be funny. Watched her pretend not to notice when men stared at her legs. Watched her deflect advances with a smile and a gentle touch on the arm that somehow made the rejection feel like a compliment. She was good at it. Natural. Like she'd been born to navigate the treacherous waters of male desire and disposable income. A dancer in a neon pink bikini approached my table. "You look lonely, handsome. Want some company?" "Just watching," I managed. "First time, you look nervous." She slid into the booth beside me, too close. "I'm Destiny." "Of course you are." "What?" "Nothing. I'm waiting for someone." "Aren't we all?" She laughed, but it was hollow. "Well, if you change your mind, I'll be on stage 2 in about 10 minutes. Don't be shy." She moved on to the next mark, and I returned to watching Kelly. She was at the bar now, talking to the bartender while he prepared a complex order. They seemed friendly, familiar, like coworkers who'd weathered many shifts together. My wife had coworkers I'd never met, in a job I didn't know she had, in a world I couldn't have imagined she inhabited. At 4:30, she disappeared into what must have been an employee area. I left before she could emerge, my head spinning with questions I didn't want answers to. My wife, the real estate agent, was a cocktail waitress at a strip club. My wife, who complained about the objectification of women in beer commercials, spent her Thursdays serving drinks to men who saw her as just another piece of the fantasy they were paying for. Friday was torture. Kelly breezed through her morning routine, talking about listings and closings and weekend open houses. I nodded and smiled, and wondered how many other lies I'd swallowed without questioning. "You've been quiet lately," she said as she gathered her things. "Everything okay at work?" "Just the Henderson account, more complex than we initially thought." Poor baby. She kissed my forehead, leaving a faint lipstick mark. "Maybe we should get away this weekend. Drive up to the lake? That bed and breakfast you like?" "Maybe," I said. "Let's see how today goes." She studied me for a moment, and I saw something flicker in her eyes. Concern? Suspicion? Guilt? But then she smiled, and it was gone. "I love you," she said. "You know that, right?" "I know," I lied. Saturday morning arrived gray and drizzling. Kelly announced she was going shopping. "Nordstrom's having their anniversary sale," she said, pulling on designer jeans and a cashmere sweater. "Want to come? We could make a day of it. Lunch at that Italian place you like?" "You know I hate shopping." "I know." She kissed me, and I tasted coffee and lies. "I'll try not to damage the credit cards too badly, though there's this Chanel bag I've been eyeing." "Kelly." "Kidding. Mostly. I'll be good, I promise." Another promise, another lie. I waited 10 minutes after she left, then followed. The GPS tracker on her phone, installed for safety, she'd agreed when I suggested it after a colleague's wife was carjacked, showed her heading not toward the mall, but to Zone 31. The abandoned psychiatric hospital loomed against the gray sky like something from a horror movie. Riverside Psychiatric closed in 1991 amid funding cuts and patient abuse scandals. The city kept promising to demolish it, but somehow it never happened. Now it stood empty, a monument to good intentions and bad outcomes. The parking lot was exactly what I'd feared. Cars pulling in for quick exchanges, windows rolling down, items changing hands, rapid departures. A drive-through pharmacy for things that definitely weren't FDA approved. Kelly's Acura pulled in at 10:23 a.m. She stopped next to a beaten Honda Civic with tinted windows and a missing hubcap. Her window went down. Their window went down. An envelope went from her car to theirs. A small package came back. The entire transaction took less than 60 seconds. My wife, the gambler. My wife the strip club waitress. My wife the drug dealer? Drug buyer. Drug. Something. I followed her to Nordstrom, watched her spend 90 minutes creating her alibi. She even bought the Chanel bag, probably to have something to show for her shopping trip. The receipt would show a 10:45 a.m. purchase. Perfect timing to cover the 10:23 a.m. drug transaction. She was meticulous in her deception. Professional. Like someone who'd been living a double life for so long, it had become second nature. That afternoon, while Kelly arranged her Nordstrom purchases and chattered about the amazing deals she'd found, I locked myself in my home office and went through our finances with forensic attention. The missing money revealed itself like blood under a black light. 1,000 here, 2,000 there. ATM withdrawals just under the reporting limit. Cash advances on credit cards I didn't know she had. Transfers to accounts that existed for days before being closed. $30,000. Gone. Vanished into the black hole of whatever Kelly was funding with her secret life. I sat at my desk, surrounded by bank statements and credit card bills, and tried to understand how I'd been so blind. But the truth was simple and devastating. I'd trusted her. Completely. Absolutely. The way you're supposed to trust your spouse. Trust, but verify, was a principle I applied to every professional relationship. Trust a client's numbers, but verify with documentation. Trust a partner's analysis, but verify with independent research. Trust, but always verify. Except with Kelly. With Kelly, I'd just trusted. Saturday evening, I made dinner. Her favorite chicken piccata with roasted vegetables and a bottle of 2015 Barolo we'd been saving for a special occasion. I set the table with our wedding china, lit candles, even put on the jazz playlist she loved. What's all this? She stood in the doorway, still in her shopping clothes, holding a glass of wine. Did I forget an anniversary? Can a man make dinner for his wife? Of course, it's just... She moved into the room cautiously, like a deer sensing a trap. You've been acting strange all week. Distant. Are we okay? Sit down, Kelly. We need to talk. The wine glass trembled in her hand. That's never a good way to start a conversation. No, I agreed. It's not. I pulled out my laptop, already open to the spreadsheet. Parking zones mapped with different colors. Timestamps cataloged with obsessive precision. The evidence of 6 months of deception laid out in neat columns and damning clarity. I know about Zone 47, I said quietly. The Gold Rush Casino where you spend every Tuesday. The wine glass slipped from her hand, shattering on our hardwood floor. Red wine spread across the boards like blood at a crime scene. Neither of us moved to clean it up. John, I know about Zone 15, the velvet room where you work Thursday afternoons. She was shaking now, her perfect makeup beginning to crack. Her hands gripped the edge of the table so hard her knuckles went white. And I know about Zone 31, the psychiatric hospital parking lot where you make your Saturday exchanges. It's not what you think. The words burst out of her, desperate and hollow. Please, just let me explain. It's exactly what I think. I pulled out the photos I'd taken. The casino entrance with its sad neon sign. The employee parking at the strip club. The window-to-window exchange in an abandoned hospital's parking lot. I followed you, Kelly. I saw everything. She started crying then. Great gasping sobs that would have broken my heart if it wasn't already in pieces on the floor with the wine glass. I have a problem, she whispered between sobs. I'm sick, John. I need help. You've needed help for 6 months. Instead, you chose to lie. Every single day. Every single morning when you kissed me goodbye. Every single evening when you told me about your fictional clients and imaginary sales. I was ashamed. Do you have any idea what it's like to lose control like that? To watch yourself doing something you know is destroying your life but be unable to stop? No, I said. Because when I have a problem, I talk to my wife about it. I don't create an elaborate web of lies and live a complete double life. It started so small, she said, mascara running in black rivers down her cheeks. A client gave me a casino chip as a joke. Said I should try my luck. I went just for fun, just to see. And I won, John. I won $500 on my first pull of a slot machine. And then? And then I went back, just to try again. But I lost. So I had to win it back. And then I lost more, and more. And suddenly I was down $5,000 and I couldn't tell you because you'd be so disappointed. So you got a job at a strip club? They were threatening me. Her voice rose, cracking with desperation. The people I borrowed from. They said they'd come to the house. They said they'd hurt you if I didn't pay. The club was the only place that would hire me for cash under the table, no questions asked. And the parking lot? The drug deals? That's where I pay them. Every Saturday, $500 cash or they add interest. Compound interest. Do you know what compound interest looks like on a gambling debt? I laughed, but it was bitter and broken. I'm a financial analyst, Kelly. Of course I know what compound interest looks like. What I don't know is what my wife looks like, because the woman I married would never have done any of this. I stood up, the chair scraping against the floor. Kelly reached for me, but I stepped back. $30,000, Kelly. You stole $30,000 from our future. She went white. You went through our finances? Did you really think I wouldn't notice? Did you think I was that stupid, that oblivious? I never thought you were stupid. I thought I could fix it before you found out. Win it back. Pay it off. Make it all go away. By lying to me every day for 6 months? I didn't mean for it to go on so long. How long did you mean for it to go on? A month? 2? At what point were you planning to trust me with the truth? She didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Because we both knew she never would have told me. She would have kept lying until the money ran out, or the threats became real, or the whole house of cards collapsed. I walked to our bedroom, Kelly trailing behind me, begging and explaining and making it all worse with every word. I pulled suitcases from the closet, the ones we'd bought for our honeymoon in Hawaii, back when we were different people with a different future. What are you doing? What does it look like? You're leaving. Tonight. You can't just throw me out. This is my home too. No, I said, folding her blouses with mechanical precision. This is my house, inherited from my parents, remember? Your name was never on the deed because you said you didn't want the tax complications. That's not fair. Fair. I spun to face her. Fair would have been you telling me the truth 6 months ago when this started. Fair would have been trusting me enough to ask for help. Fair would have been being the wife you promised to be when we stood in front of our families and friends and God and made vows to each other. I'm still that person. No. That person wouldn't lie to me every day for 6 months. That person wouldn't steal from our joint accounts. That person wouldn't work at a strip club and buy drugs in parking lots and gamble away our future. I finished packing, dragging the suitcases to the front door. Kelly stood in the hallway, looking small and broken, and nothing like the polished woman who'd left for client meetings that morning. Where am I supposed to go? I don't care. Your parents, your sister, a hotel? Hell, maybe the Velvet Room has employee housing for their cocktail waitresses. You're being cruel. No, Kelly. Cruel is what you did to us. Cruel is looking me in the eye every morning and lying. Cruel is making me believe we were building a life together while you were tearing it down in secret. This is just consequences. I grabbed her car keys from the hook by the door. The Acura's in my name. You can Uber to wherever you're going. John, please, I'm begging you. I'll do anything. I'll go to treatment. I'll go to Gamblers Anonymous. I'll quit the club. I'll never lie to you again. You had 6 months to do all of that. You chose differently. I opened the front door. Get out. What about my things? My jewelry, my clothes. I'll mail them wherever you end up. Right now, take your suitcases and go. She stood on the porch, rain starting to fall, matching her tears. What am I going to tell people? Try the truth for once. I pulled out my phone. In fact, let me help you with that. What are you doing? I was already composing an email, attaching the parking data, the photos, the evidence. Making sure your family knows why you need a place to stay. No, John, please, you don't have to. I hit send. The email went to her parents, her sister Amy, her brother David. The subject line: Kelly needs your help. Please read immediately. You bastard! How could you? How could I? How could you lie to me for 6 months? How could you steal our money? How could you live a complete double life while I sat here like an idiot believing every word? My phone started ringing immediately. Patricia, her mother. I declined the call and turned back to Kelly. I suggest you call Amy. She lives closest. Maybe she'll be more understanding than I am. I hate you. No, I said quietly. You hate yourself. You hate what you've become. You hate that you got caught. But you don't hate me. I'm just the mirror showing you who you really are. I closed the door and locked it. She pounded on it for 10 minutes, alternating between begging and cursing. I sat in the living room, lights off, listening to the rain and the sound of my marriage ending. Finally, a car pulled up. Amy's voice, muffled but recognizable. There was arguing, crying, and then blessed silence. I poured myself 3 fingers of Macallan 18, the bottle we'd been saving for our 15th anniversary, and sat in the dark, looking at the empty space where Kelly used to curl up with her real estate magazines and her dreams of perfect houses and perfect lives. The throw pillow she'd needle-pointed during our first year of marriage stared at me accusingly. Home is where the heart is, in delicate script, surrounded by tiny roses. I threw it in the trash, then retrieved it, then threw it away again. My phone buzzed constantly. Calls, texts, voicemails. I turned it off and went to bed in the guest room. Our bedroom, the master bedroom, smelled like vanilla and jasmine and broken promises. Sunday morning arrived with the kind of crystalline clarity that comes after a storm. The house was quiet, but it was a different kind of quiet than before. Not peaceful, empty, like a tooth missing from your smile. I made coffee in the French press Kelly had bought me for Christmas 3 years ago. For my coffee snob, the card had said. I wondered now if she'd already been gambling then. If the money for the gift had come from an early win, or if she'd already been borrowing from our savings. At 8 a.m., I called Harold Brennan, the attorney who'd handled my parents' estate. Harold, it's John Williams. I apologize for calling on a Sunday, but I need an appointment first thing tomorrow morning. My wife and I are getting divorced. I'm sorry to hear that, John. These things are never easy. Can you give me a brief overview so I can prepare? Gambling addiction, secret employment at a strip club, theft of marital assets, and 6 months of systematic deception. I have documentation for everything. I see. Yes, let's meet first thing tomorrow, 9 a.m.? I'll be there. I spent the morning securing our finances, changed passwords on every account, moved money from joint accounts to individual ones, canceled credit cards, called the bank to flag any unusual activity. Each action felt like another nail in the coffin of our marriage, but also like building a life raft. I was saving myself from drowning in Kelly's deception. By noon, the family assault began in earnest. Patricia arrived first, dressed impeccably despite the circumstances. Even in crisis, Kelly's mother maintained her senator's wife standards. Pearls at noon on a Sunday. Chanel suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly salary. John Williams, you open this door immediately! I opened it, but stood in the doorway, blocking her entrance. Patricia, how dare you throw my daughter out like some common trash? She's sick. She needs help, not abandonment. She's been sick for 6 months, Patricia. She chose to lie about it instead of getting help. Marriage is for better or worse. The vows also include honesty and fidelity. She broke hers first. Fidelity? She didn't cheat on you. She cheated on our life together. She cheated on our future. She cheated on every promise she made when she said, I do. Patricia's perfectly composed face cracked slightly. She's my daughter. I have to protect her. Then you should have raised her to tell the truth when she's in trouble, not to construct elaborate lies and live a double life. How dare you? I dare because it's true. Kelly learned somewhere that appearance matters more than reality, that it's better to look perfect than to be honest. I wonder where she learned that. Patricia's face went white, then red. You're a cruel man, John Williams. No, I'm just done pretending. Your daughter needs help, real help. Not enabling, not covering up, not maintaining appearances. If you really want to protect her, get her into treatment. Today. Robert arrived as Patricia was leaving, passing each other in the driveway with the kind of icy politeness that suggested they'd been divorced for years. Kelly's parents had separated when she was in college, but still appeared together at family functions, maintaining the illusion of a happy marriage for the sake of appearances. Now I understood where Kelly had learned to live a double life. John, Robert said, attempting authority. We need to discuss this like rational men. There's nothing to discuss, Robert. Your daughter is a gambling addict who's been lying to me for 6 months. The marriage is over. Don't be hasty. People make mistakes. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary or bouncing a check. 6 months of calculated deception isn't a mistake. It's a choice. Multiple choices, actually. Thousands of them. Every lie she told, every story she invented, every time she looked me in the eye and chose deception over truth. She's sick. Then get her treatment. But that's your responsibility now, not mine. Amy arrived last, looking exhausted. She didn't sleep all night, just sat on my couch crying and refreshing her phone to see if you'd called. I won't be calling. John, please, I know you're hurt, but she's falling apart. She needs you. She needed me 6 months ago when this started. She needed me the first time she lost more than she could afford. She needed me when someone threatened her. Instead, she chose to handle it alone, in secret, with lies. She was ashamed. Shame is not an excuse for 6 months of deception. Shame is not an excuse for stealing $30,000. Shame is not an excuse for living a complete double life, while I sat here like a fool believing every word. Amy studied me with tired eyes. You're really done, aren't you? There's no coming back from this. Would you take back a husband who lied to you every day for 6 months? Who stole from your future? Who was living a secret life you knew nothing about? She didn't answer, which was answer enough. Monday morning, I sat in Harold Brennan's office, all leather and mahogany and the smell of old money, sliding a thick folder across his desk. This is everything, I said. 6 months of parking data showing her real locations versus where she claimed to be. Photos of her entering the casino, working at the strip club, making parking lot exchanges. Financial records showing $30,000 missing. Her work schedule proving she lied about her whereabouts. Emails and texts where she described fictional clients and fake appointments. Harold whistled low as he flipped through the evidence. This is remarkably thorough. I'm a financial analyst. Documentation is what I do. When I discover fraud, I document everything. Any children? No, thank God. Assets? House is mine, inherited from my parents. Both cars are in my name. She never wanted the hassle of registration and insurance. Joint checking and savings, which I've already frozen. Her 401k worth about $40,000 that she can keep. I just want this over. Given the evidence of financial malfeasance and deception, we can push for a fault-based divorce. She'll have a hard time claiming alimony when she's been stealing from marital assets. How long will it take? If she doesn't contest it, 3 months. If she fights it, 6 to 8 months. She'll fight. She always doubles down when cornered. Then we'd better prepare for war. Harold was right. Kelly hired Martina Vega, known for defending wronged wives in high-profile divorces. Their initial filing was a masterpiece of spin. I'd abandoned a sick spouse in her time of need. Kelly deserved alimony for her medical condition. My actions were cruel and unusual, throwing her out in the rain like a Dickensian villain. I laughed when I read it. Actually laughed out loud in Harold's office. "They're painting you as heartless," Harold said. "Good. Maybe I am. Maybe heartless is what you have to be when someone spends 6 months ripping your heart out with lies." The real estate agency found out within a week. Hartley Realty prided itself on its sterling reputation. Their agents were trusted advisors and pillars of the community. They ran background checks, required ethics training, and had a morality clause in every contract. A quick call to their HR department, along with documentation of Kelly's Thursday activities, ended her real estate career. "You got me fired!" Kelly screamed over the phone when she found out. She'd gotten a new number, called from Amy's phone when I didn't answer the unknown number. "No, Kelly, your choices got you fired. I just made sure they knew who they were employing." "I'll sue you for defamation." Truth is an absolute defense against defamation. Everything I sent them was documented fact. Photos of you entering an adult entertainment establishment during hours you claimed to be in the office. Pretty clear cut. "You're destroying my life." "You destroyed your own life. I'm just declining to be collateral damage." "I need that job. How am I supposed to pay my debts without income?" "That's not my problem anymore. Maybe the Velvet Room is hiring full-time." "You bastard!" I hung up and blocked Amy's number too. The divorce proceedings were brutal. Martina Vega was worth her reputation, painting me as a controlling husband who'd driven Kelly to addiction, who'd monitored her every move, who'd abandoned her instead of supporting her recovery. My client was struggling with a medical condition, she argued at the first hearing. Instead of compassion, she got surveillance. Instead of support, she got suspicion. Mr. Williams tracked his wife like a criminal rather than helping her like a husband. Harold stood up slowly, deliberately. "Your Honor, I'd like to present the timeline of events. Mr. Williams discovered the deception through a routine review of parking charges. He investigated only after finding 6 months of inconsistencies. This wasn't surveillance. It was discovery of ongoing fraud. He laid out the evidence methodically. The casino visits starting small and growing longer. The strip club employment hidden behind fake office days. The Saturday morning payoffs disguised as shopping trips. Mrs. Williams had 6 months of opportunities to seek help, to tell the truth, to trust her husband. Instead, she chose to construct an elaborate deception while stealing $30,000 from marital assets. Kelly took the stand in a conservative black dress, looking pale and fragile. She was good, I had to admit. Tears at exactly the right moments. Voice breaking as she talked about her disease and her shame and her desperate need for understanding. "I was sick," she told the court. "I wanted to tell John, but I was terrified he'd leave me. I thought if I could just fix it myself, if I could just win back what I'd lost, everything would be okay." "So instead," Harold asked on cross-examination, "you lied to him for 6 months?" "I was protecting him. I didn't want him to worry." "Were you protecting him when you filled out employment paperwork at the Velvet Room under a false name?" Kelly went pale. We'd found that detail during discovery. She'd been working under the name Amber Stevens, complete with a fake ID she'd obtained somehow. I needed to protect my real estate career." "So you were capable of strategic thinking? Of planning ahead? Of protecting your interests?" "Yes, but..." "Then you were capable of asking your husband for help instead of deceiving him for half a year." "You don't understand. The people I owed money to, they were dangerous. They threatened to hurt John if I didn't pay." "And yet you never thought to tell him about these threats? Never thought he had a right to know he was in danger?" "I was handling it. By lying to him every single day, I was protecting him." You were protecting yourself, Mrs. Williams. Your image, your reputation, your secret life. The only thing you weren't protecting was your marriage. The judge, Helen Morrison, watched it all with sharp eyes behind steel-rimmed glasses. She'd been on the bench for 20 years and had probably seen every possible permutation of marital destruction. When both sides finished, she reviewed the evidence carefully. The parking data, the photos, the financial records, the emails and texts where Kelly had invented entire days' worth of fictional activities. Mrs. Williams, she finally said, addiction is indeed a disease, and the court has sympathy for those struggling with such challenges. Kelly perked up slightly, hope flickering in her eyes. However, Judge Morrison continued, addiction does not excuse fraud, deception, and theft. You systematically lied to your husband for 6 months. You stole $30,000 from marital assets. You chose to hide your problems rather than seek help from the person who had vowed to support you through better or worse. Kelly started crying again, but the judge wasn't moved. While Mr. Williams' response may seem harsh to some, he was protecting himself from further harm. Trust is the foundation of marriage, and you demolished that foundation with 6 months of calculated deception. She ruled in my favor. No alimony. The house remained mine. Kelly got her personal belongings, her 401k, and her debts, including whatever she owed to the dangerous people who met her in parking lots. This is wrong, Martina Vega protested. My client needs support for her recovery. Your client needs to take responsibility for her actions, Judge Morrison replied. Mr. Williams is not obligated to fund the consequences of her choices. If Mrs. Williams requires treatment, she has family who can assist her. Her husband, soon-to-be ex-husband, has already paid a price far exceeding any financial judgment this court could impose. What price? Vega demanded. He's keeping everything. The price of betrayed trust, the judge said quietly. The price of discovering the person you loved most in the world has been lying to you every day for months. The price of learning your marriage was built on deception. That, counselor, is a debt that can never be repaid. After the hearing, Kelly approached me in the courthouse lobby. She'd lost weight, her designer clothes replaced with something off the rack from Target. The polished real estate agent was gone, replaced by someone who looked hollow and desperate. I hope you're happy, she said bitterly. I'm not happy, Kelly. How could I be happy? My marriage is over. The woman I loved turned out to be a stranger. The life I thought we were building was a lie. I'm not happy, I'm just done. I loved you. No, you loved the life I provided. You loved the stability I represented. You loved having someone to come home to after your secret casino trips and strip club shifts, but you didn't love me enough to tell me the truth when you were in trouble. I was scared. And now you're divorced. Fear was the more expensive option. You could have helped me. If you really loved me, you would have helped me. I would have helped you 6 months ago if you'd asked. I would have moved heaven and earth to get you treatment, to pay off debts, to keep you safe. But you didn't ask. You lied instead. And that's a choice I can't forgive. I started to walk away, but she grabbed my arm. John, please. I know I hurt you, but I'm trying to get better. I'm in GA now. I'm seeing a therapist. I'm trying to make amends. Good. I hope it works. I hope you get better. But that's your journey now, not mine. Don't you feel anything? 12 years, John. Doesn't that mean anything to you? It meant everything to me. That's why your betrayal hurts so much. That's why I can't forgive it. You didn't just lie about where you were going. You lied about who you were. And I can't be married to someone I don't know. I pulled free and walked away, leaving her standing in the courthouse lobby. Harold caught up with me in the parking lot. You did well in there, kept your composure. I'm a financial analyst. I present facts, not emotions. Still, can't have been easy seeing her like that. You know what wasn't easy? Discovering 6 months of lies. Everything since then has just been paperwork. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I sold the house. Every room held memories of a marriage I'd thought was real. The kitchen where she'd kissed me goodbye each morning before heading to the casino. The bedroom where she'd slept soundly after lying to my face. The dining room where I'd confronted her with the truth. The real estate agent, from a different company obviously, was surprised at my urgency. "This is a beautiful home, Mr. Williams. Great neighborhood, excellent schools. We could get top dollar if we stage it properly, maybe wait for spring. I want it sold within 30 days. Price it to move." "But sir, you'll be leaving money on the table." "I'm leaving ghosts behind. That's worth any price." I bought a modern condo downtown. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, 1 name on the deed. Clean lines and no history. Floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the city but reflected nothing back. My family had opinions about my harsh treatment of Kelly. "She was sick, John," my mother said over Sunday dinner at their house. "You could have been more compassionate." "I could have been a lot of things, Mom. I could have been more vigilant. I could have been more suspicious. I could have checked her stories sooner. The one thing I couldn't have been was more compassionate to someone who lied to me for 6 months." But addiction is a reason, not an excuse. Yes, she was addicted to gambling, but she was also addicted to lying. And I don't know which one was worse. My brother Mark tried a different approach. "What if she'd come clean after a month? Would you have forgiven her then?" "Maybe. Probably. I don't know." I pushed food around my plate, appetite gone. "But she didn't come clean after a month. Or 2. Or 3. She built an entire secret life and maintained it for half a year. At some point, the deception becomes worse than the original problem." When? When you can look someone you claim to love in the eye and lie without hesitation. When you can kiss them goodbye knowing you're going somewhere you've said you're not. When you can listen to them talk about their day and their dreams and their plans for your future together, knowing you're destroying that future in secret. My father, who'd been quiet throughout dinner, finally spoke. "I don't blame you, son." Mom turned on him. "Richard!" "No, Patricia. The boy's right. Marriage is built on trust. Without it, you have nothing." Kelly broke that trust repeatedly, systematically, for months. John did what he had to do to protect himself. But they could have worked through it. "Some things you can't work through," Dad said quietly. "Some betrayals cut too deep." John would have spent the rest of his marriage wondering where she really was, what she was really doing, whether she was lying again. That's no way to live. I started dating again after a year. Tentatively at first, like learning to walk after a bad accident. Coffee dates that felt like job interviews. Dinners where I found myself checking my phone to see if locations matched stories. "I verify everything," I told Sarah on our 3rd date. We were at a wine bar downtown, the kind of place Kelly would have loved for its Instagram potential. Bank statements, social media, parking apps. If that bothers you, we shouldn't continue. Sarah studied me over her wine glass. She was nothing like Kelly. Brunette where Kelly was blonde, reserved where Kelly was vivacious, careful with words where Kelly had been effusive. A marketing executive who'd made VP at 35 through careful planning and flawless execution. Because of your ex-wife. Because I learned that people can look you in the eye and lie for months without blinking. I won't be fooled again. That must be exhausting, never being able to fully trust. It's less exhausting than discovering you've been living with a stranger. She nodded slowly. My ex-husband had a second family. Found out when the other woman called me thinking I was the other woman. She'd been told I was his ex-wife who wouldn't accept the divorce. Jesus. 5 years. He'd been living a double life for 5 years. Business trips that were really visits to his other family. Working late that was really coaching his other son's little league team. A whole life I knew nothing about. How did you find out? She called the house looking for him. Wanted to know why he'd missed their daughter's recital. I thought it was a prank at first. Then she started describing things only a wife would know. The scar on his shoulder, his favorite coffee mug, the way he hummed in the shower. We sat in silence for a moment, Two people bonded by the unique trauma of discovered deception. So yeah, Sarah continued, trust, but verify isn't paranoia. It's wisdom earned through pain. We dated carefully, transparently. Separate accounts for the first year, location sharing on our phones from month 2, complete openness about where we were and who we were with. It's not romantic, Sarah admitted one night, showing me her Google timeline for the day. But neither is being lied to. Do you think we'll ever be able to trust completely again? I don't know. Maybe trust isn't binary. Maybe it's a spectrum, and we're just further along the verify end than most people. Because we know what happens when you're too far on the trust end. Exactly. Kelly tried to contact me 2 years after the divorce. A long email about recovery, making amends, wanting closure. Apparently, she'd finally gotten serious about treatment. 90 days inpatient. GA meetings every day. A sponsor who held her accountable. She was working the 12 steps and had reached the one about making amends. I read the email twice, then responded briefly. I'm glad you're getting help. Your apology is noted. Please don't contact me again. She wrote back immediately. Paragraphs about forgiveness and moving forward and the person she used to be versus the person she was becoming. How she understood my anger but hoped someday I could see past it. How she prayed for my happiness and hoped I'd found peace. I didn't respond. Forgiveness wasn't mine to give. She'd have to find that elsewhere, from whatever God she prayed to or whatever peace she sought. Don't you want closure? Sarah asked when I told her about the emails. We were living together by then, in a new place we'd chosen together. Neutral territory with no ghosts. I got closure when I locked the door behind her. Everything else is just noise. But don't you wonder, if she's really better? If she's genuinely sorry? Being sorry doesn't undo 6 months of lies. Being better doesn't erase $30,000 in theft. And wondering about her means giving her space in my head that she doesn't deserve. You're harder than you used to be, Sarah said. It wasn't an accusation, just an observation. I'm more realistic than I used to be. I used to believe people were basically honest, that deception was the exception. Now I know better. That's sad. It's protective. The world is full of people who will look you in the eye and lie without blinking. Kelly taught me that. It's a valuable lesson, even if the tuition was high. 3 years after the divorce, I heard through mutual friends that Kelly had remarried. Some guy she met in GA, apparently, a fellow addict who understood her struggles. They were living in another state, starting fresh where nobody knew their history. Does that bother you? Sarah asked when I told her. No. I hope it works out for them. I hope they're honest with each other in a way she never was with me. I hope they build something real. You don't sound bitter. I'm not bitter. Bitter would mean I still care. I don't. Kelly is just someone I used to know, someone I was married to in what feels like a different lifetime. 12 years is a long time to just forget. I haven't forgotten. I remember everything. The good times and the lies, the love and the betrayal, the woman I married and the stranger she became. I just don't let those memories control me anymore. The parking app still sits on my phone, though I don't share it with anyone now. My zones, my charges, my truth. Sometimes I look at it and remember that Tuesday morning when a simple notification changed everything. When Zone 47 wasn't downtown, and my wife wasn't who she claimed to be, technology saved me from a lifetime of deception. One monthly statement that didn't quite make sense. One zone that wasn't where it should be. One thread that, when pulled, unraveled 12 years of marriage. Some people think I was too harsh, that I should have been more understanding, more forgiving, more willing to work through the addiction and deception. They don't understand that it wasn't about the gambling or even the money. It was about the lies. The calculated, systematic deception that required her to look me in the eye every morning and create fictional days. The parking app didn't end my marriage. Kelly's choices did. The app just showed me what was already broken, like an X-ray revealing a fracture that's been there for months, hidden under skin and muscle and hope. Sarah and I are getting married next spring. A small ceremony, just family and close friends. We've been transparent about everything: finances, histories, habits, fears. We have a prenup that we negotiated together, protecting both of us from the kinds of deception we've experienced before. It's not romantic, Sarah's mother said when she heard about our arrangements. Whatever happened to trust and faith and believing in each other? We do believe in each other, Sarah told her. We just also believe in verification, in transparency, in building a marriage on truth instead of assumptions. But if you really loved each other, we do love each other. That's why we're honest about everything. That's why we share locations and passwords and financial statements, because we know what happens when you don't. The wedding will be small, the honeymoon modest. We're putting most of our money into buying a house together. Both names on the deed, both names on the mortgage, everything split down the middle. Equal partners in everything, with no room for deception. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't checked that parking statement. If I just swiped away the notification and gone on with my morning. How long would Kelly's double life have continued? Years? Decades? Would I have grown old believing I knew my wife while she lived in the shadows? The thought makes me grateful for technology, for timestamps and zone numbers and digital breadcrumbs that led to the truth, for the ability to verify instead of just trust. Kelly taught me that marriage without verification is just consensual delusion. That I love you can be a lie as easily as I'm working late. That the person sleeping beside you can be a stranger wearing a familiar face. But she also taught me that the truth always leaves traces. Digital footprints, parking charges, tiny inconsistencies that add up to enormous deceptions. You just have to be willing to look. And once you see the truth, you have to be willing to act on it. No matter how much it hurts, no matter who calls you heartless, no matter how many tears are shed. Because in the end, the only person responsible for protecting you is you. And anyone who truly loves you would never put you in a position where protection is necessary. The Williams rule remains simple. When the parking app contradicts the words, believe the data. When the patterns show deception, believe the patterns. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them the first time. And when someone lies to you for 6 months straight, pack their bags and change the locks. Because second chances are for people who make mistakes, not for people who make choices, not for people who build entire secret lives while kissing you goodbye each morning, not for people who steal your future to fund their lies. Kelly wanted understanding. She wanted forgiveness. She wanted me to see her addiction as a disease that excused 6 months of deception. But I understood perfectly. She was a liar who happened to have a gambling problem, not a gambler who happened to lie. The addiction might have been the reason, but the deception was the choice. And that choice, repeated every day for 6 months, was what ended our marriage. The parking app saved me from a lifetime of lies. One monthly statement that didn't quite make sense. One zone that wasn't where it should be. One thread that, when pulled, revealed the truth. Technology doesn't lie. People do. Even the ones who promised they wouldn't. Especially them. And once you know that, once you really understand it, you can never go back to blind trust again. Which is why I check everything now, why I verify constantly, why I demand transparency in return for trust. Some call it paranoid. I call it educated. Kelly educated me about the price of blind faith. The tuition was $30,000 in 12 years of my life. But the lesson? The lesson was priceless. Trust, but verify. Always verify. Because the person who says, just trust me, is usually the person who deserves it least. And the technology that seems invasive is often the only thing standing between you and a devastating truth. The parking app didn't ruin my marriage. It saved my life. It showed me who Kelly really was before I wasted another 12 years on a lie. For that brutal honesty, I'll always be grateful, even if it cost me everything I thought I knew about love.